guys, how's it going? MasterBucks here. Welcome to another FIFA World Cup video, and today I will be giving you all my updated predictions for the FIFA World Cup. About a month ago, just before the start of the FIFA World Cup, I gave my predictions for the entire tournament. That includes the group stages and everyone that made it through to the round of 16 onward, all the way up to the final. Well, the actual World Cup has started now. The group stages are done. We have our round of 16, and we've been able to get a good look at all the teams competing in the World Cup. I feel like it's only fair that now that we actually have seen these teams in action, we've got our round of 16 all sorted out, I think it's time for me to have another shot at this. In my World Cup prediction video, I got 11 out of the 16 teams that I thought would qualify correct. So I'm pretty happy with how I did. However, the round of 16, it's kind of gone a little bit to tatty. I did say that France would versus Argentina. I did say that, Portugal would face Uruguay, and I got a couple of them correct, but I mean, I kind of had Germany facing France in the final, so I'm not so sure if that's happening anymore. Basically, what I'm saying is, I need to change. I need to update my prediction a little bit. And so, this is it. From the round of 16 all the way up to the final and eventually the World Cup winner, this is my updated 2018 FIFA World Cup prediction. And just before we do get into the prediction, everybody, I've got a quick little update I'd like to share with you. As I'm sure you all know, the FIFA 18 World Cup mode add-on has been released and is available for download right now. The update is totally free and allows you to build your very own World Cup team. And thanks to EA Sports and Foot United, I have got a brand new giveaway to celebrate the FIFA World Cup. Ladies and gentlemen, just on the off chance, have you heard of a bloke by the name of Cristiano Ronaldo? I'm sure there's quite a fair few people watching this video that are, I would assume, pretty big fans. Maybe they have his shirt. But is that shirt signed though? Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, your boy's got the hookup. We're giving away a signed Cristiano Ronaldo shirt. All you've got to do for this one is to build your own dream World Cup 11 in FIFA Ultimate Team. Now, what I've decided to do is build my dream team based on who I think have been the best players at the World Cup so far. You don't have to do that, but that's what I've decided to do. It's maybe not the highest chemistry team in the world, but it's a very highly rated team, that's for sure. And it is, in my opinion, the best World Cup team that we've got so far. And that is really all you've got to do. Just build your FIFA 18 World Cup dream team. And it doesn't even have to be in the game either. You could do it maybe on Foothead if you'd like. Once you've decided on your World Cup Dream Team, this is how you enter the giveaway. In the description down below is a link to Foot United. Make sure you click on that link and sign up to the website. Do that by connecting your Twitter and/or your Instagram. And then once you're done, all you've got to do is show your World Cup starting 11, your dream team, either in a tweet or on Instagram. All you've got to make sure to do is to include these two hashtags. Hashtag FootAU and hashtag EA Contest. You have to use those hashtags, otherwise your entry won't be submitted. And that is it. That is all you have to do to own your very own signed Cristiano Ronaldo shirt, okay? I've been able to give away some pretty awesome prizes. I sent a fan away to Dubai. This is how crazy some of these giveaways are getting. A trip to Dubai, now I've got a signed Cristiano Ronaldo shirt. If you haven't already, please sign up to Foot United and make sure you keep up with the giveaways because they are just doing absolutely incredible stuff. And really, it is so easy to enter these giveaways. Make sure you do yourselves a favor. I'm really happy I get to do these sort of things for you guys. But yeah, best of luck with the giveaway. Can't wait to see your teams. Starting off with the first round of 16 game, and there's maybe a slight chance that this video is coming out either during or after the game has actually been played. But if that is the case, trust me, I've recorded this way beforehand. But hopefully that won't be an issue, but it is France versus Argentina. Now, in my actual prediction video, I did have these two teams facing in the round of 16. I said Argentina would finish second in their group, and I said France would finish top. So, obviously, that meant they'd face each other. And in that prediction video, I had France beating Argentina, and I said that Messi's run would come to an end at the round of 16. Well, it's kind of a shock that Argentina's run has even gotten this far, because they were absolutely atrocious and abysmal in their first two games. And in their third game, they weren't that great either, but they just did enough to pull out the win and to qualify second. Messi had to do his bit. Rojo had to just drive forward. A centre-back getting that far forward when it's Marcus Rojo seems crazy. I mean, I thought he'd be I think he thought he'd probably get electrocuted if he went that far up the pitch. But no, he did it. He pulled out an amazing volley to win the game for Argentina. And yeah, even though they haven't looked that good, they are facing France in the round of 16. And France themselves have even been a little underwhelming. Basically what I'm saying is France have been maybe a little bit below par for what we would have expected from them. They didn't exactly look too good against Denmark. They only barely pulled out a win against Peru. So I know with the Denmark game they rotated pretty heavily though, so it's still going to be a tough one to pick. But look, I think I'm not going to change my predictions here. I'm going to stick with what I originally said would happen, and that is France is going to make it to the quarterfinals, and Lionel Messi's run is going to come to an end at the round of 16. The next round of 16 game will be Uruguay versus Portugal. Now, the winner of this game will end up playing France in the quarterfinals. Uruguay have looked pretty phenomenal throughout the entire tournament so far, or at least in the group stage. They took care of France, took care of Saudi Arabia, and took care of Egypt, only just right toward the end there. But no, I think they've looked really solid, especially at the back, just sweeping up everything. Bloody Diego Godin and co have just been phenomenal. I think they've kept a clean sheet every single one of their games so far, so that's bloody impressive, even if they've only played Russia, Saudi Arabia, and Egypt. It's definitely a battle of like offense versus defense, honestly. I think Uruguay's strongest suit, or one of their strongest suit, is their defense, but still going forward, you've got Cavani and Suarez, so that's not bad. And Portugal, I definitely think, Cristiano Ronaldo has got to have his say in this game at some point. So I tell you what, it is a bloody tough one, but I had Portugal beating Uruguay, and again, I don't know. I'm treating this like a VAR decision. There needs to be a clear and obvious error made. And I don't really... Portugal were pretty average against Iran. I mean, it was just an amazing Quaresma goal that got it done for them. And they were a bit, not too great against, Morocco either. I thought Morocco were genuinely the better side in that game, but still lost anyway. I tell you what, man, I don't know. Do I change it? Look, I don't. I might come to regret this, but I am going to stick with what I originally said, and I am going to say that Portugal was going to make it. That is one of the hardest round of 16 games to call. If I'm wrong about this and Uruguay make it forward, then fine. That is totally fine by me. That is way too tough a game to call. I'm going to say Portugal is going to make it through, though. So it'll be France v Portugal in the quarters. Next round of 16 game is Brazil versus Mexico. Now, Mexico, I had them getting forward. I had them going out the group, and I had Brazil playing them as well. So far, I've predicted the round of 16 almost perfectly up to this point, and I did say Brazil would get past Mexico, and I'm going to continue to say Brazil is going to get past Mexico. I didn't exactly think that Brazil were going to have an amazing World Cup at the start, because going into it, they were maybe looking a bit meh, or at least when I made that prediction, but the games that they played going into it, the friendlies and all that stuff that they played against Croatia and others leading into the tournament, they were looking sharp, and then in the actual tournament itself, maybe a bit slow of a start, but they eventually got things going, and Neymar and Coutinho's firing, so Brazil look like a real threat, I'll be honest. And yeah, they're maybe going to go a little further than what I originally had them going. So yeah, Brazil's definitely going to win that game against Mexico, or at least that's what I'm predicting. Next up is Belgium versus Japan. Japan to make it second in their group and to qualify. I didn't see them getting out of their group, so fair play to them. And fair play to them quite literally, because that's how they got out. But Belgium have just got a superstar team, and I think it's time. I think it is their time. I think if Belgium have really ever got a shot of winning the World Cup in the last, 30, 40, 50 years, maybe even 20, 30 years in the future, they're never going to have a team surely this good again. And I've just got to think that Belgium have got to do something at this World Cup, or they maybe will never get the shot again for another generation or two, or maybe more. So I'm, of course, going to say Belgium will make it out and make it to the quarters, but they will be going up against Brazil. We'll see what the result of that game is in a second. Now into the other half of the round of 16, definitely the... on paper, definitely nowhere near as strong as the other side, but it's going to be Spain versus Russia. The host nation, who have looked in pretty good form right up until their form was really stopped by Uruguay when they lost like 3-0 and lost pretty convincingly, versus Spain, who again, not exactly been super convincing for a top side either. I wrote off Russia in my first prediction video, saying they wouldn't even get out of the group because, leading into the tournament, their form going into it was really, really poor, but they just started brilliantly with that 5-0 win against Saudi Arabia. So, their momentum has been halted quite a fair bit because of that loss to Uruguay, but Spain as well, they still, too, were not really at their best, I think, in the group either. But will they eventually turn it around? I'm not too sure, but I surely can see Spain going further than the round of 16. It's got to happen. So Russia to get out of their group in their own World Cup, I think that's pretty respectable, but I think they won't go past Spain, and I think Spain will make it to the quarterfinals. Croatia versus Denmark. Now, Croatia, I had them finishing in first, and I had Australia playing against them. I had Australia finishing in second. That was maybe a bit of a hopeful, ambitious pick. You know, I'm a little biased, we'll be honest. But in the end, it wasn't Australia. It was Denmark that made it through. I did say that Australia would make it past Croatia, but Croatia have looked really, really good though. So, I mean, even if Australia did somehow manage to finish in second, after getting a look at this Croatian side, I would have changed. I, honest to God, would have said, no, we're not going to beat Croatia. I genuinely would have, because, man, they look sharp. Croatia look real good. They've got a wealth of talent. Modric is absolutely brilliant, and just a whole other bunch of great players. So, yeah, Croatia, for me, will get past Denmark and move on into the quarterfinals. Then comes Sweden versus Switzerland, with the winner of this facing either Colombia or England. And it's crazy how there are so many strong teams on one side of the round of 16 fixtures, and then the other half is just full of teams that really you don't expect to make that deeper run if it wasn't for the fact that they are so fortunately, they have such a fortunate run to the final. But Sweden and Switzerland, two teams I didn't even predict would get through to the round of 16. I thought Sweden were probably the more likely side out of Switzerland and Sweden to get through and to make it to the round of 16. I thought they could have maybe pulled off an upset and maybe Sweden would have got into that second spot ahead of Mexico, but in the end, they got into that second spot or that first spot, whatever, ahead of Germany, because Germany just crashed out. It was absolute scenes. But Sweden have looked alright. They've shown that they can score goals, and Switzerland as well. I mean, they've got obviously some great names and they got some pretty good results as well, but man, this is another tough one to call for me. This is right up there with Uruguay, Portugal, with how difficult it will be to split them. Can I veto this one? Can I just say whoever makes it through? It's just, no, I can't honestly split these two. I'm going to say, okay, first country that pops in my head, honestly, gut instinct decision, Switzerland. I'm going to say Switzerland. Yeah, why not? We'll go with Switzerland for this one. Man, that's going to... Stuff it. I said Switzerland. I'm sticking with Switzerland. I'm going to say they get it done on penalties. And again, just like the Uruguay-Portugal game, I say Portugal's going to make it through, but if Uruguay make it through, then that's fine, because I genuinely think they could very well do it as well. It's the exact same with Sweden. We will just have to wait and see who gets through, but I'm going to say Switzerland in what surely is a really tight contest. Just on paper, it seems that way. And then the final round of 16 game, which will be Colombia versus England. And this game is definitely going to be a real talking point. England just managed to get past Tunisia, which was not really that good a look at the beginning. But now that when they absolutely swept aside Panama, everyone really started feeling extremely optimistic all of a sudden. But honestly, yeah, that probably got them an awful lot of momentum and a real good vibe around the camp and around the nation. But when they went out and they just threw their second team B-side, whatever, out against Belgium and then ended up losing 1-0, yes, it got them on the right side of the round of 16 spectrum. But I'll be honest, if they don't get past the round of 16, England now have to make it to the semi-finals for it not to be an absolute disaster. England just have to beat Colombia and they have to beat Sweden and Switzerland, or it'll be an embarrassment and people will be ripping into them. The entire world will be ripping into them for the rest of the tournament and well into the future. And I think a lot of people are in agreement that Colombia is definitely a much harder team and a tougher side to face than Japan will be in the round of 16. So, in the end, England have traded in a slightly harder round of 16 game for an easier run to the final, which is all well and good, but England, you don't want to be too guilty of looking too far ahead. If they don't get past Colombia, then what was the point of getting into the easier half of the round of 16? I think there is every single chance in the world that Colombia could knock out England and make it through to the quarterfinals. But the only reason I am going to pick England over Colombia for this one is because of that cloud over James Rodriguez. Will he play? It's definitely not the only reason, but it's quite a big reason for sure. I'm also slightly skeptical about really the main starting 11 of England's team have only played Tunisia and Panama. Now they're jumping from those two teams to Colombia, which is a whole other beast. I don't know. I don't know. It's going to be an interesting one for sure. Don't worry, I'm still going to go with England to make it to the quarterfinals, but I tell you what, man, they may have a slightly easier run to the finals now, but that means they have all the pressure in the world on them. But now onto the quarterfinals, and starting off with France versus Portugal. Now again, I had these two facing off against each other in the quarterfinals. I haven't changed it, and I originally predicted France, obviously, to get past. I'd said that they would get their revenge for their Euro final loss in their own backyard to Portugal. And look, I'm leaning towards sticking with that prediction and saying that France will make it to the semis, because if we break down and take a look at Portugal's victories here, then really the only time they faced someone of this sort of level, like France's level, was when they played Spain, and that was a 3-3 draw. And the only reason they didn't, the only reason they got anything out of that game is because Ronaldo played one of the best games of his career, or at least of his national career. So scored a brilliant hat-trick, just dragged them to a result, honestly. And he's going to have to do, I would imagine, something like that again. And France have just got too many big names to call upon. And not to say Portugal don't, but I just think France, maybe after a victory against Argentina, who knows, maybe they'll start to build up a little bit of momentum. I can still see France making the semi-finals and Portugal's run ending there. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to say that Portugal will get knocked out of the quarterfinals and France advance forward into the semis. It's a shame, if I'm wrong about this, I would love for Argentina to play Portugal in the quarters. Just the Messi versus Ronaldo, the timeline, the whole storyline of it, the Twitter would go off, and just, the potential GOAT deciding game. I don't know. But yeah, I'm still going to say that it'll be France and Portugal and that France will make it through. The next one, and again, the exact same on this side of the round of 16, is Brazil versus Belgium. I had these two facing against each other in the quarterfinals, and I said that Brazil would end up losing to Belgium. It was a slight, how can I say it? Like a bit of a risky pick, but still a pick that could maybe happen. And after seeing Belgium play, I still feel like they're definitely a team that could go deep and absolutely could maybe go on and challenge for the actual World Cup itself. But after seeing Brazil, I'm a hell of a lot less optimistic that could happen. I think I'm going to make a change. I'm going to do it. Belgium, I genuinely do think they do have a shot in this game against Brazil, but man, Brazil, Neymar, Coutinho, and just all these names, and the way they've been playing, and the way they've really just taken over and controlled games for the long majority of those 90 minutes. And even though maybe they're not exactly putting away teams by any stretch of the imagination, they are still extremely threatening and super dangerous, and a real chance at winning this World Cup. So I'm going to do it. I'm going to backtrack from my Belgium-Brazil prediction, and I am going to say that Brazil will make it, and they will go all the way to the semi-finals. Now we take a look at Spain versus Croatia. Now this, again, another pretty tight one. Spain have got the names and have got the talent on paper, and Croatia's, I think, potentially looking like they could end up being the team that everyone talks about at this World Cup, the team that everyone thought, okay, they're decent, but are they really going to be able to push? Because we're talking now maybe about Croatia making it as far as the semi-finals. I'd love for there to be a team that no one really expected to win the World Cup to get that far into it, but it really all just comes down to how Spain deal with Russia. If they can do it in a convincing manner, if they've got good momentum, if they come out and take control against Croatia. I think, definitely leaning towards Spain winning this one, but it's another tight one. For this one, I'm probably just going to play it safe and say that Spain is going to probably make it to the semi-finals, and there's a good chance that they'll probably face off against England as well, because it will be England versus Switzerland. Apparently, I said Switzerland as just a gut pick over Sweden in the final quarterfinal. I think so long as England get past Colombia, whoever they face, whether it be Sweden or Switzerland, regardless of whether it was Switzerland or Sweden, I still probably would have gone with England to win that game anyway. And if that is the case, then that means England's going to make it to a semi-final, and getting in that easier half of the round of 16 and losing that game to Belgium is going to end up being, it's going to work for them the exact way that, it's going to work out for them perfectly. They wanted the easier run of games leading up to the final, and I am genuinely, I can't really honestly say that Colombia will beat England, even though it is a possibility. I still think England are going to do it. And if they make it to the quarterfinals, I still think that they're a much better shot of getting a victory over Sweden or Switzerland than over Colombia. So, hell, if they can get past Colombia, I don't see why they can't make it to the semis. So there you go, boys. England are making it to the semi-finals. How about that? But it is now time to decide our World Cup finalists, starting off with France versus Brazil. This is one hell of a semi-final, and it honestly could end up being a better game than the World Cup final itself. I did, of course, in my original prediction, have France versus Belgium facing each other in the semis, but that, of course, was down to my bit risky, bit ambitious pick of Belgium beating Brazil. I can't honestly say now, even though Belgium have looked really, really good, that they could down Brazil just with the players in the team and the form that they seem to have. I just can't see it, so I am still saying it's France versus Brazil, but now I've got to pick. I said Brazil wouldn't even make it past the quarterfinals. Am I now going to change that and say they're making it to the final? Okay, all right, I've made a decision. And ladies and gentlemen, I think it's time for a retraction. I said France would make the World Cup final. I've changed my mind. Brazil's going to make the World Cup final. Brazil is going to put away the horrible memories of their just absolute disastrous semi-final at the last World Cup. They're going to progress and make it to the World Cup final, and I have them as favourites for whoever they face, whether it be Spain, whether it be England. France, for me, from what I've seen of them in this World Cup, I just don't know if it's enough. I've still got them beating Argentina, but that's probably because Argentina are just a bit of a they're kind of shambles for the majority of their tournament. And then Portugal, I think, maybe do rely a little too heavily on Ronaldo, so I'm not sure if he's going to deliver for them like every single game to get them to this World Cup. So I feel like France could maybe take care of those two, but Brazil, against such a brilliant, just overall well-rounded side, and just star players like Neymar, Coutinho, I don't see it. Another super close, super tight game, but I've just got to give it to Brazil making the World Cup final. And that does mean we have to find our other finalist, and it will be either Spain or England. And honestly, if either two of these teams had slightly tougher opponents or teams that were sort of more in there or more at their level, I don't know if they would have made it that far. But the fact that their runs seem so simple, I think Spain have got a lot more difficult to run to this point than England do. Obviously, England have to beat Colombia and then either Sweden or Switzerland. Spain had to beat Russia, the host nation, who have looked pretty good at times, even though it was against sort of inferior opponents, and Croatia, who have got one of the higher goal differences, of beaten teams convincingly like Argentina and then other ones, and Denmark too. And I don't know. I think Spain, you'd probably think, would probably be the toughest game that England would have to play this entire World Cup, unless they did make it to the final. I may be making it sound like it's going to be a walk in the park for them, which is definitely not what I'm saying at all. I definitely do think that it will still be difficult and England's going to give them a hell of a game, but I kind of do honestly think that if it is Spain and if it is England, which, let's be honest, they are the two best teams that could make it to that second semi-final, if they do face up against each other, I mean, barring injuries or any big suspensions or anything like that, I think we give it to Spain. And I think, Brazil versus Spain at the World Cup final. I really did not think this at all. I thought Brazil maybe were a bit of a shot. However, I did still have them getting beaten by Belgium in the quarters, so maybe I can't talk. But I did not think that Spain would make it to the final this season. This year. I just don't know why. But now we've got the round of 16 laid out the way it is. I'm going through it all in depth. And I've got Spain making the final. So there we go then. That leaves us with the final itself. And it will be Brazil versus Spain. I had Spain in my original prediction being knocked out by Germany in the semi-finals, and Germany made it to the final. Let's not talk about that too much. And I had Brazil getting knocked out as, again, and I can't stress enough, bit of an ambitious pick. It could still happen, them being knocked out by Belgium in the quarters. So a team I had getting knocked out of the semi-finals and a team I had getting knocked out of the quarterfinals have now made it all the way up to the final dance. One pretty interesting fact that I did find about Brazil versus Spain is that over the course of, football over the last 100 or so years, that Brazil and Spain internationally haven't really played against each other all that much. And I will say that even though they've only played each other like 10 or so times ever, or around about 10 times, Spain have only ever beaten them once, ever. And you know when that was? 1934. Every single other time, Brazil has either beaten them or there's been a draw. And there haven't been many draws. There's been a lot more wins for Brazil than draws or losses for Spain. But I'm not going to make my decision on who wins this World Cup based on shit that happened in the mid to early 1900s. No, it's not going to happen. But I definitely can see a track record of Brazil doing quite well against Spain on the international stage. I still honestly think Brazil have got some of their better football left to play. They still need to get past big teams like Mexico, like Belgium, and then of course France to get to this final. But if they can play their best football, if they can make it to the final, and if Brazil plays their best brand of football and Spain plays their best brand of football, I think Brazil may have them beat. Ladies and gentlemen, let's make it official. Brazil will be your 2018 World Cup champion. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. I've got Brazil winning the World Cup final now. In my previous prediction, I think I had a pretty decent prediction. I got 11 or 12 of the 16 teams that advanced correct. I got their positions pretty much bang on as well, who'd finish first and second. But now we have to hope this goes well for me. All I can tell you is, after sitting here and going through it all, I cannot say with absolute certainty that it's 100% going to be Brazil. There's so many teams that could win this World Cup. It's been such a great tournament so far. I think it could maybe somehow get even better. Well, we'll have to wait and see who does end up taking the chocolates, guys. Who is going to win the FIFA World Cup? I want to hear your predictions in the comments section down below. Let me know what you think, but that will do it for me. Thank you so much for watching, guys. My name is the MasterBucks. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and have a good one.